was canceled again in 2016 for doing something positive for myself and my culture. This time it was for writing an article about Wisconsin hip hop. I built up some hype at Hip Hop DX during my internship there. I was learning about how to do a music article versus news versus a feature, and then collaborative articles as well. And the SEO and the tagging, the light coding that I was doing was extremely helpful and translated directly into creating my own site. I had originally launched Basement Made to release my Chapter 1 of Sun and Moon mixtape in 2012. That October, I dropped it with a Tumblr format with the domain, so I had the domain. It was cool. I launched it. Obviously, it's copyrighted and trademarked from that point. And then in 2015, switching it to a WordPress format to make it more professional looking for the presentation of my work and the artists I was working with. There were a couple artists with web design experience around my artist commune in LA at the time, and so kind of had a quick couple lessons from them and used what I could on Basement Made and the WordPress to get it going. And it really did look nice, and spotlighted Classic, an artist from Milwaukee, as the first article. It was great. It was doing well. I had built up just a following. My Twitter was going up, my Instagram, Facebook, and everything. And people were actually checking in on what I was releasing. It wasn't just the follower and the friends numbers. Premieres, collabs, feature articles, videos, thousands of unique viewers. I was posting daily with insightful personal stories and sociological perspectives, which was new for a lot of people in LA and just around the country, not seeing Wisconsin and hip hop mix that often or understanding what could be the commonality between the two. Seeing people get into the content that weren't necessarily fans of rap or Hollywood, tapping in for the thought pieces, hip hop culture taking to some of the indie artists I was putting on for, getting people fed. I was a one-stop source for talent and design, ideas, and many blessings to those who contributed monetarily as well. You put food in my mouth and helped me eat. I was never self-sufficient through Basement Made or even close, but you made it more possible or made me think that that was actually a trajectory that I could follow and get to this place where I could make a living doing this. And I want to get back to that place again. The industry, white collar people, again, denied me chance to make any money at what I was excelling at, obviously, from applications, of course. Having what I did with Basement Made, I don't know if that's it, or becoming from Wisconsin or what, being an artist at the same time. But trying to ruin my life with blacklisting and further attacks or denials of my existence. In American hip hop, you were hiding under a rock if you didn't know Basement Made in 2015 and 2016. My articles were often beating out Complex, DX, Source, Double XL, Pigeons and Planes, Vice, etc. I was being targeted. There's no reason I shouldn't be brought on just for the pure influence that I have. The underground love kept me motivated, though. I was getting chances to spread out to different communities around the U.S. and work them into the mission. I still believe that Wisconsin and these other localized, not pocketed, but just unrecognized or uncelebrated cultures, they have a lot of talent. And looking through the lens of hip hop and sociology in my personal life really makes it a unique story and translates to more people. I presented a group of artists to my boss, Sparkle Pratt, at Hip Hop DX, and I was given a selection to use for the list. I did not pick the list. It seems to be a common misconception. I don't think it's a bad list either way. She was critical in allowing me to write about Wisconsin hip hop too. Justin Hunt, who brought me on, gave me the chance to even step in the door, and he also encouraged me to continue with Basement Made and build the Wisconsin hip hop thing and apply what I had used over there. And so I started to reach out to these artists, these Wisconsin hip hop rappers, artists, for interviews. Some got back to me, some didn't. That's normal. As a journalist, you do what you can to get a hold of the source, and if you can't, then you use other interviews. You might use their music with a grain of salt, of course, especially in hip hop, and their bio. I researched each artist I was already familiar with their musical styles. By the time the opportunity came along, we were connected through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So we're seeing each other's pictures and commenting on those along the way. And most of us were linked like that, or at least on the level of communicating through social media. But the interviews helped out a lot. I hadn't met these people in person. I didn't get to the level I was at with writing about Wisconsin hip hop until I was in LA. So ironically, I wasn't back home when it was at its peak. So I got to talk about some background with these artists and their artistry and the state of Wisconsin hip hop. You know, maybe what I've done comes up and they can, speak to where they were at that time or what they were doing to carve out their niche or their space. The article shot to the top of Google. And many thanks to everyone who checked it out and didn't try to ruin my life because of it. Of course, I inspired other writers and social media people trying to get in on the buzz and cover Wisconsin hip hop, try to, pretend like they know what's going on and give their qualified 2 cents and their hot take. And, employing my style and likeness however they can, or, jabbing or slanting or, downing however they can. But I'm from Madison. I grew up in the local hip hop scene, and I've made waves coast to coast with my music. And I brought more positive attention to my state and the working people and the artists there than anyone has done independently. Find anyone else. You could feel the pressure building. I had the clout, the experience, the street smarts, the self-made name, and the brand. I know more about Wisconsin and Midwest hip hop than anyone. And it's shown. I wrote the #1 article on Wisconsin hip hop. It's huge. Strangely, most of the rappers featured in this critical culture piece either complained or fell silent about it. And that ruined the flow I had going with DX, of course, and took a lot of air, steam out of what I was developing. It made it look like they're not ready. These crybaby artists and their expansive teams just exhibited these strong fascist bully tendencies. They're back in full force to bring the independent working artists down, it seemed, and just nitpick at me however possible. Just this anti-progress, new age, hyper-centrist thing. This is when I realized the extent of this whiny privilege culture that others in my generation seem to religiously believe in. Oblivious to adversity. They hate it when you even say working class. Like it's Voldemort or something silly. Because they have the choice to not understand. They do less and bitch more, and then they make up a story about what happened to make themselves seem like they turned out on top or turned them out on top or whatever. And they complain about getting recognized if it's not done right. A couple of these hipsters that bought their way into Wisconsin hip-hop were born with privilege. And they wrote a whole anti-blue-collar, anti-me piece based on a reading mistake that they made and just stuck with that. One of them, Michael Penn, is a UW First Wave Scholarship Program recipient. Most of these flued out artists that come to this program have tried to ruin my name in some way. They just have this pettiness about them. I've always wondered why. It's just jealousy or, I don't know, anti-local culture or racism or what, but my ex, who's now a top sociology representative at UW-Madison, did whatever she could to push me away from this same scholarship since we met right before college when this scholarship program was starting. She commanded that I was white and no white people were worthy of scholarships. And she had an in with the program directly in the People program, this being the First Wave program. She's a scholarship recipient herself, directly tied with DJ Payne One, the most connected person in Madison hip-hop, who's had a problem with me for years for some reason also. I broke up with my ex, and of course she turns around and talks me down to everyone in this organization however possible. And, so I'm seen as an outsider trying to figure out why the whole time I'm going through school. Me, a hip-hop artist, paying for my school, and then she neither. And these other people coming from elsewhere into my scene. Still, I supported Michael's music over the years, saw him in concert. Same with First Wave, even though they all bullied me with pride from the beginning. I've been treated like shit my entire life. That's nothing new at all. since the beginning, since as long as I can remember. I've applied to that blog that published this hate piece against me as well several times, obviously before that happened. But I was denied all opportunity there, and those same positions were just handed out to the less qualified. Allverse One again started getting all of this hate. I was writing this big piece on Wisconsin. I was all the way down the rabbit hole, I guess. Yeah, just wasn't eating right, and my head was in all kinds of places. I was getting a lot of flashbacks that started to rush back at the same time as some things mentally started to happen, which I'll get in a different video. But all of this at once with the X thing and no opportunities coming my way, I just picked up my things and left LA figuring I'd have better luck back home. I was homeless for the majority of 2017, March through October. None of my family or friends would let me sleep in their backyard, much less inside their house or garage or in their basement. No one on Facebook or Twitter or these other social media platforms gave me a shot. They all left me for dead and spit on my name. No one in town would let me stay with them. One artist from Milwaukee did say that I could come out there, Hakeem Paragon, and I'll never forget that. And Josh Dominguez back in LA, something similar. I love you both for even creating that thought in my mind that somebody could be there, and just instilling that hope in me at that time when I thought nobody gave a shit. After all these years of repping Madison, repping Wisconsin, putting on for people, placements and collaborations, and really just growing with these folks, and having fun. So I really appreciate that. But I felt like for some reason I was going to be better off in Madison. Certain things may have pointed to this is not the place to be, but just in my mental space at that time, that's what I was thinking. I was more comfortable with this area. And of course, I'm not anyone's responsibility but my own, and I wasn't then. It's my own job to look after myself and my well-being. I know that. I was over 18, and so it's not legally bound to anybody else or anything like that. Clearly, I've never had a team that's had my back. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't met some great people along the way, but when these big things happen, it is just me by myself trying to deal with all of these things flying in my direction, trying to get something going. Obviously, they love calling me retard for a long time, and lazy, anything to deflect from their insecurities, lack of character, and independent thought. He needs help, and it's sad people pretending like they haven't directly contributed to the mass torture. And Mom, you stuck with me in one way or another, and I love you for that. Not giving up on me entirely when the rest of the family did. Our little meetups that we had gave me something to go on, if not just, a planned meetup with somebody to exchange words or an interaction that wasn't, I guess, hospital bills coming out of nowhere or some forced 5150 or a disorderly conduct for raising my voice. Taking Greyhound trips across the country because I thought there was something waiting for me in Florida, and using the rest of my money to get back to Wisconsin only to be homeless. Not criticizing the crazy things I did necessarily, but, wondering if there's a better way. And I really appreciate you for sticking with me and offering those things for me to chew on, think about, and, muddle over and try to come up with a solution. Eric Einhaus, I can never forget you either. Sticking with me over the years, really just through the grind and through the tough times, and always being supportive and encouraging and showing up full of ideas and providing that energy, wanting to do something. you're always there for me, man. And you orchestrated getting my things back from LA when I just abruptly left and left all my stuff out there. So I really appreciate you for that, man. Just getting some of my things back as well. And just a continued motivation over the years. This was my 4th public canceling for doing something positive for myself and my culture. I wasn't eating well. I was living out of the corner of a bedroom, the breakup thing, and then I published this unnecessary piece about my ex too, and that was way too personal, and the backlash from that added to my canceling. Definitely regret doing that. I was isolating, going straight from work back home, not really interacting with anyone, even if they were trying to get me to go to yoga or come out to a show, do things like that. I was just kind of getting mad at the world and was losing interest in things like that. I missed Wisconsin, and then Donald Trump was elected president, and it didn't blow my mind that it would happen, but it was really shocking to me and added to this whole situation that I was trying to figure out, I guess. And that was all I needed to dive down this hole of Wisconsin culture and find out what could lead to this situation, this American society. Donald Trump was elected president, and I went in grind mode from that day, just working and coming back straight back to the crib and working on my project until his inauguration day, and I dropped it on that day. Just silence. There was no response except for those maybe I talked to individually, or some checked it out piece for piece, but couldn't get a real response from the media or the alternate media, whichever form it comes in, social media. And then Joseph Jakubowski drops a manifesto about a month later, and there's guns involved. It's Janesville and not me in LA or something, and threats are made. So, of course, I didn't make a big enough show, and he did. So, that gets the clout, the attention, or the recognition, or the potential for monetary gain, and I'm just slammed further down. And this reignited the passion of the Stan, stalkers, street, and internet thugs. So, they and the other ops-centric cultures run up on me and push me to kill myself, encourage others to kill me, and ruin any opportunity that comes my way. They're white-collar allies with the Sigma ignorance, everybody goes through that. I don't feel sorry for you. Hey, let's compete about the worst stories or something and get over it. No equal opportunity for you, and we've turned you into an island for being genuine, hardworking, but you're not original. A lot of Americans play this game, the who can come up with the perfect insult game, perfect way to reduce a person to nothingness and make it seem like they don't deserve life. Been done for a long time, but social media and just the prevalence of input from Americans that we're able to see online, really reveals it as one of the culture's favorite things to do. They celebrate it. They think it's funny to destroy somebody's life based on the smallest possible reason to do the most damage. That's worth the most points. I was kicked out of Wisconsin Lutheran Chapel and told if I go back I'd be arrested for running around trying to trump God, according to the pastor there. I was just sitting silently and writing. Maybe I left my book up, Cliff G. God, which had some pretty wild personal social experiments in it and explorations about myself and my health at the time. I might have left that up on a computer and somebody saw that, but it was not attacking or threatening anyone, running around trying to trump God. But they banned me at the shelter too for stepping out for a cigarette. People did that all the time. But I stepped out for a cigarette after they closed the doors, and that is against the rules. Others did the same thing every night in groups. I did it once. I was kicked out, but that's just how it is. I just didn't feel safe there anymore after that, though. Obviously, I would start to live in the woods. If I say exactly where, these oppers, these psychos that will watch this will call the police or the city or whatever and try to penalize me more and drive me further into the ground. So I was staying in the woods somewhere around Madison near the water. my area started to flood. People were finding out where I was living, pissing on where I was staying, stealing my stuff, ripping apart things I set up. And so I moved to a bigger area of woods, and eventually they kicked me out there too, but that was when I was finally getting some housing again. But a couple recommendations, I would say make sure to get a tent right away if you can, or a tarp of some kind, so you can at least cover your area from bugs, animals, and the temperatures, depending on what year. This happened to occur when it was starting to warm up, and I just knew the winter was coming, so I'm really grinded to figure something out by the time, November or December came around. But get a tent, tarp, sleeping bag. You don't necessarily need a pillow, but blankets will do. You want a lot of blankets. Definitely a weapon, bug spray. You want canned foods so that animals can't take them. You can eat it right out of the can too. A lot of stuff, all of it's supposed to be pre-cooked and ready to eat. You want a can opener, silverware. You'd be surprised you actually want that. I mean, you think you could just like eat food with your hands or whatever, but it gets a little nasty. And a phone, you can find a phone or some kind of old tablet or something pretty cheap, and you want that. You can use internet at free Wi-Fi locations and make calls, emails, browse the internet with that. You want to get your hands on that. I happen to have my old phone. Just didn't have the service on it, but just connected to the Wi-Fi around downtown. And you want a cooler of some kind you can get, again, protect your food and kind of take it out of plain sight. And then an electric shaver, eventually if you're going to want to get a job, or just for maintaining some sort of normalcy. The razors will cut you up, and it just, you're more prone to getting sicker and having those infected or something. And, they'll get rusty faster if you're outside. So you just want to make sure to get that electric shaver if possible. The day shelter at Bethel was where I went mostly, but in Nakusa, there's one on the east side as well, or was. And downtown one that have people with housing or job things. There's actually a speaker there once where they're talking about asteroids that had landed in Wisconsin, and then another time we checked out that eclipse that was happening, and they had sunglasses for us so we didn't look directly at it and hurt our eyes. But meals there, and then card games, and they have computers that you can go on and work on. Just tables to sit at and converse with people. So it's a really nice place during the day. The River Food Pantry on the north side, and they got everything though. They got produce and bread and full meals and even vitamins, and then seasonal things too. Like right now, part of the reason why I wanted to do this right now, if you're somebody that's homeless at this time and it's starting to get colder, just want some recommendations or something a little more to improve your life. As I understand, you want to have a big meal during the holidays, like everybody else. They have like turkeys and things like that there. They might have some left over from Thanksgiving now, but getting into the Christmas season, they'll have more Christmas oriented, I guess you could say, foods there. So check that out. The River Food Pantry is one. Also, there's a good one downtown off the square at the place that has the shelter as well. There's also shuttles from some places. I know they do them from Bethel if you want to get across town and you don't have the money for doing that. There's a way to get across town, and even from some of the pantries, the river at least will drive you back to where you live or to the bus stop. So they're really cool about that. And then clothing sometimes as well. They gave me some things. My shoes were getting holes in them. I was scraping on my feet. So dude at Bethel was really cool and gave me some new shoes and a shirt there. And they also have clothing drive at the river as well. You want something for an interview and that, and they'll let you use an iron at a day shelter to figure that out. And they got laundry machines there too. Also the Lutheran Chapel for a few cents, will let you wash your clothes there. I also recommend finding a place to work out and just collect your thoughts. You want to stay in shape or maintain, your body in, a decent way so that you can look all right, feel all right, and have the energy to get up and get going. Studying, collecting your thoughts, and applying for jobs. I find Madison Public Library is really good for that. Or just another place where you can sit down and write, like coffee shop or something like that. But you want to make some progress in some way. Definitely get on Badger Care and Food Share immediately. I was stuck in a situation where I came back from LA. I was going through a lot and was pretty much immediately picked up and brought to the hospital and hit with a huge medical bill. And, they sent that to the post office for general mail delivery because that's where my address was. And so I go to get, see what's there, and there's a big bill for me as I'm homeless. Get on Badger Care and Food Share immediately. Sometimes they can cover things that have happened within a certain amount of time. And that's what I wound up being able to do working with the people there. And apply for SSI and disability. I was denied twice, but it's definitely worthwhile giving it a shot, especially if you're going through something severe, mentally or physically, as I am. Get on the list for housing. I didn't have much luck through Porchlight. They were never able to connect me with anyone to get housing set up, but I did go to the day shelters and collected some housing applications there, and then just went about it myself. You should be able to get on a list for housing. It may be long. I mean, the one in LA was a couple years long, and then I don't know in Madison how it works out. I just wasn't really ever able to get in that progression. I've been bullied since I was born and had my name debated on the media in multiple countries. People will attack you if you're susceptible to it, or if you're vulnerable or going through something. They'll find a way to attack you if you're alone, sleeping in public, having an episode. I've been kicked out and spit on, and just random people insult me walking by all the time. They'll try to beat you, sexually assault you, and possibly kill you. You do need to have that weapon I mentioned. They'll maybe take photos of you and post them on their private networks for, name torture or whatever. So, be wary of people taking photos of you. That's what they're doing. I got a job at 2 Men in a Truck straight off the street. Of course, these psychos are blasting them with, don't hire him, he's a terrorist, he's this, he's that. Trying to get off the street and work a manual labor service job. I was getting up at 4 something in the morning to get on the bus to get there by 7:30. I had to walk the last 0.8 mile by foot. They were doing a sign-on bonus for $300 and paying $14 an hour with tips, so I thought that was a lot. It was more than I'd ever been paid, I believe, at that time. And been treated like shit by the majority of the supervisors I've had and coworkers since becoming a famous rapper. Stalkers, stans, and internet thugs have emailed and inboxed places of work. I'm supposed to be their resident white boy, dance and be the butt of their jokes, and also do a disproportionate amount of the work and get as little recognition as possible and no opportunities for advancement. A lot of managers and coworkers calling me less than a man, boy, white boy seems to be this thing of boy, and closet gay and ugly and scumbag. Something with like scumbag, ugly, closet gay, white boy thing. Not allowed to do anything back. If I do the same, they get their feelings hurt, they go to HR, all this stuff. Even if I speak at the same volume or tone as them, I'm blowing up or losing it or mad. They say I can't take a joke, of course. So, like I'm a leper or grief this, grief that. Because I don't embrace their constant class warfare and maximum whining culture. They call this now whining when I'm just explaining. I'm just talking. And they're always trying to tag anything I say as lying and whining, conspiracy, or delusion. I'm a super positive person, have been my whole life. This is serious content, and I've done a few of them in a row. Definitely use my platform as a creative outlet, also, to vent sometimes. But yeah, there's this weird that's been kind of projected on me for years now. Type of obsession with torturing me, like I deserve it or ask for it somehow. I've also caught a lot of males during these last few years and just staring at my crotch or my ass, and those are a lot of the physical bullying types during this time. And to be clear, I'm definitely not sexually confused at all. I'm very confident and open with my sexuality. I think the gay friends I've had will speak more honestly to my sexuality than the supposedly heterosexual ones. Since living in LA, especially, and coming back into homelessness, I guess, this whole period, and then, coming out of that, I just realized how normalized and common this sexual frustration is in America. I do believe that at least half of American males are bisexual, whether that's open, closet, or sociopathic, but a lot of this type seems to be very aggressive sexually towards males or people that don't fit their rubric for how you're supposed to behave sexually. And when you're homeless, there's a lot of concentration on the simple things. And again, know yourself or try to find yourself and stay positive and keep working. Sing to yourself, draw, write, express yourself creatively, find a way to get your thoughts out there. It might be a tree or a bug or something, but you don't want to fall completely silent, never speak, even if, like me, they're telling you, be quiet, go away, move away, just die, don't exist. I can't believe people like you are alive or, real, shit like that. You want to be able to communicate somehow. Create your own freedom of speech. I realized since coming back to my hometown how small and conservative Madison is. It probably sounds like that to a lot of you folks that are listening to this that really only have experience in the big city, or even folks in the country that are like, you need to get out of Madison, bro. We told you that that's not a good place to be. And I've had to learn this the hard way and push through it, but also come to the conclusion that I'd probably be better off in Milwaukee or Chicago. I really tried to make this Madison thing happen, but it's just seeming more and more like that every day. And I don't want to give up on what I've developed, but like I said, it's really just kind of hit me hard, all this hatred and disgust towards me when I'm trying to bring love and progress to myself, those around me, my city, my state, and those in hip hop. There's some kind of distance in there that's preventing this connection to happen. I'm going to keep going with Basement Made. I love it as a company, and maybe the name doesn't apply as much to some people, or they don't think that it's the perfect conceptual presentation of my life. So be it. But this is a story. It's mine. It's real. And I hope I can, shed some light on a few of these other areas that have been confused over the years. Like and subscribe. More positive videos coming soon. And some that might not revolve around the struggle along the way, just at regular, everyday things. I don't know, maybe